Welcome to the roller coaster of midlife live on YouTube. It is Tuesday, and joining me is Holly Buxenhorn.
Hello.
Okay, so Holly, what I wanted to jump into today is we've talked about being stuck, but I think that word has almost gotten overused, and so that people can't really understand if what that means for them and how it's feeling. I mean, for me, when I think about being stuck, it was, and how I would define it in my experience, was I couldn't see past my current circumstances.
Okay,
I could,
that's a great definition of it.
yeah, I just couldn't see what the future could hold for me. And again, mine stemmed from my oldest getting ready for going to college, and my whole identity as a mother was changing. And I just couldn't see what was next for me. And that is where I got stuck. So maybe you can share with the women that you work with how that might look for other women, and what it actually, different ways that it can actually be if people feel being stuck.
I think it's a great description for when someone feels, kind of dazed and confused and not knowing where to go next. I do think it's a broad description, like I'm feeling sad. Well, what are you sad about? So, we have to get very granular about like what we're stuck about, as you described the specifics behind it. So there's this concept known as emotional granularity. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
So basically, it's just about getting super granular, descriptive about what you're experiencing. So, like you could say you're frustrated, but you're frustrated about what, and why. Or I'm feeling, sad about what? I'm sad about being lonely. I feel isolated. I'm sad that I lost someone in my life. I'm sad that my kids are no longer living in the home anymore, and I'm an empty nester. So what's causing? What is the emotions, the feelings behind the stuckness? I think it does a wonderful job at describing it, but in order to really get beyond it and help yourself in an accurate and strategic way, you have to get very granular about what you're stuck on. Because we're all going to get stuck at various times of our lives, in various aspects of our lives. It's just the human condition. Like, we are going to get stuck. And sometimes it's in our career, sometimes it's in our relationships, sometimes it's in our health and well-being. Maybe it's a combination of all of those things. So it's really important that we, understand that getting stuck is just a part of being human. And there's really no way of avoiding it. Just really isn't. It's going to ebb and it's going to flow. I think that every time we resolve that stuck feeling or a challenge, we'll get on the other side. We're kind of like, all right, yeah, this is great. And then all of a sudden, something else comes our way, and we're like, how did I land here again? And it's kind of like, well, that's just life, you can't always be on, it's just not even possible to maintain that. Even an athlete has an off season, like it's just not possible. So we need to just know we are going to get stuck, but more importantly, what is creating the feeling of stuckness in this particular instance? So we can then be more proactive and strategic and accurate with our actions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And it's almost like I'm seeing that being stuck is like a signpost.
Yeah, it's a great
that in some way it's saying, okay, you're stuck.
Yes.
Because something's not working in your life. There's a gap or something. And it's really a signpost to signify change.
Wow,
or the potential of change.
Do you know Susan David? Do you know anything about Susan David's work?
I don't think so.
Wow. So this is a large part. Susan David is phenomenal. And she has a book called Emotional Agility. I think it's called that. I forget. She's fantastic. She's got a great TED Talk. Oh, so awesome. And she talks about emotions as being signposts. They don't define who we are. They just indicate something is up, something is going on. We tend to say, I am sad, rather than saying, I am feeling sad, or saying, I'm stuck, rather than I'm feeling stuck. We're not that emotion. We're just feeling that way. Like I am happy is that I'm feeling happy. We take it on as our identity when emotions are really just descriptives. They ebb and flow throughout our day. It's a large part of what I do. Like when we talk about the energy levels going back when we first met in my podcast, a large part of what my coaching program is about. They're all flat. It's just flag posts. Everything is fluid. It's fluid. So rather than taking it on and letting it define us, we need to just get very specific about it. And yes, use them as a signpost. That's exactly right.
And I think that's where the problem may lay for some people, is that we do become our emotions.
100%.
We take it as our state of being. And when I go back to what I went through, that's exactly what I did, is I didn't acknowledge that they are my feelings. I am not my feelings.
That's right.
My feelings are just a reaction to the situation, a memory, an occurrence, something that happened.
And also, I think the other part of it is that what we don't do is that because we don't normalize it. Like to use yourself as an example, like it would be completely normal and understandable. Like if I said this to you, that you would be feeling stuck when your children were leaving the house, you were in a crossroads figuring out what is going to be my new purpose, what's going to be, something that I can serve other people, like that wouldn't that make complete sense? That you were stuck, but we never.
But we don't talk about that. Well, and that's part of what you and I are doing, in these weekly lives, is normalizing all of these things, because there isn't anyone that just says, "Hey, heads."
Oh, wait, you just cut out for a second. That was strange.
Oh, okay.
Now you're back.
Our internet's been dead dodgy lately.
Okay.
I had a menopause there.
No, it was a valid pause. I think you were just talking about the fact that we don't, give ourselves the break to say it's understandable.
Right. Because we're not talking about these things. It's not open. Nobody gives us the heads up. Oh, by the way, as your child is going through driver's ed and getting their driver's license, take that as a sign that you may start to be feeling differently, because your child is gaining independence and they don't need you the same way. Part of us are excited for our children growing and moving forward. Yeah. And it's like, woohoo, I have more time. They can drive the other ones to hockey practice and they can drive themselves to and from work. But we're not going, okay, wait a second, but how does that affect me as a mother?
And I think that's unfortunately because we're not really taught self-awareness when we're going through school. And, instead, actually, we're told to kind of gloss over the, ugly stuff and pull up our big girl panties and just suck it up, and to some level that can be effective because we do need to persevere. But I'm a firm believer of first honoring what it is that we're struggling with, because then how are we supposed to then accurately support ourselves to go through it? When we sugarcoat things or we minimize things, then we're not really talking from reality. We're not going to put strategies into place to support ourselves from the reality of what we're experiencing if we're sugarcoating it. So we have to be honest. We have to be honest with ourselves with what we're experiencing. And that's just hard in itself because, again, it takes practice, to expose that kind of level of emotion, and vulnerability is difficult sometimes for people. And for most people, I would say it's not anything that, again, we've been taught. I mean, what household, our parents weren't taught that, so we weren't taught that. The media certainly doesn't, emphasize that, right? So, kind of leaves us twiddling our thumbs, wondering, why we're struggling with that ebb and flow. It's completely understandable that we're struggling with it. We weren't taught it.
Well, yeah, and that's it exactly. Before we go on any further, I just want to give you the heads up that I just got a pop-up saying my internet's a bit squirrely. So if I disappear altogether, okay, I've lost internet again. So
okay, no worries.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
But you mentioned about honoring what we're going through. And I think that's another thing that we do is we don't honor what we're feeling. So many times, I know I've done this, is that you set your emotions aside.
Yeah.
You bury them, put them in a box somewhere, you don't actually acknowledge and deal with them. And I think that's really where the root cause of a lot of these problems come from.
Yeah.
Is that we just, I'll use my British analogy here, is we soldier on.
Yeah.
Stiff upper lip, you keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
And, as moms, sometimes that's what we had to do.
Yeah.
Just to get through the day.
Yeah.
But then we never actually took the time to sort of sort through any of those thoughts and feelings that we had.
No, and the truth is those feelings then become magnified. It's kind of like the whack-a-mole game. When you whack one thing and it pops up another way, you can't really squash it. I mean, you can squash emotions, but then you're also numbing out enjoyable emotions. There's only really one vehicle that emotions come out of. So if you hold down all the ugly, difficult, unpleasant emotions, then you're also going to numb out enjoyable emotions, joy and pleasure. Then you really can't experience that high level of true joy or pleasure because you're not allowing yourself to indulge in an emotional experience. It's not possible. They're not separate entities. They exist on the same spectrum, emotions. So there's no way of squashing the difficult ones and just enjoying the good ones. You have to embrace all the emotions and feel the full range of them all.
Because if we're not sort of experiencing them, that's when we sort of numb ourselves.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of the time you hear people say, after this experience, a painful one, I feel, I've grown and I'm that much better for it. No one wants difficult, painful experiences, but let's face it, that's where the growth happens.
Yeah.
Because we get more resilient and we learn more about ourselves. So nobody wants it, but that's where the good stuff really happens. And that's why I'm such a firm believer that the kind of shitstorm in midlife is such a beautiful catalyst to create transformation, because it's with that shitstorm, that pain, that uncomfortability, combined with decades of being fed up and done and exhausted with checking all the boxes and finally saying, I'm ready to throw the gauntlet down. I want more. And no, it's not about securing the best job, the right weight, the best relationship. It's an inside out job, because we've done that. If we knew it was a box to check, we would have done it by now. We're great box checkers. But it doesn't work that way, right? It doesn't work that way.
I know. And, it's the problem is that not all women actually throw down that gauntlet.
No.
I have come across many women that are, for lack of a better term, that I feel that they're fading away because they've given up.
Well, I'm going to say the percentage is very high. It's very high. Yeah. And again, it depends on what your past was about, but it takes effort. It really does take effort and willingness to be open to a different way of viewing and perceiving things in our lives. And that's hard, to change all of that. But the truth is that there is scientific proof. There's a concept of neuroplasticity, which I think we've spoken about, that, the brain is not set. We can create new neural pathways with more proactive behaviors that can, lead us to greater moments of happiness and joy and success. But it takes a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. It's not for the weary. It's not for the weary.
It's not. But then again, you look at it and, my journey taking me to this point has been 6 years. I had to live those 6 years anyways.
Yeah.
So what would be more painful? Shining a light on some of those dark spots and some of those things that I have hidden away, have never dealt with, or staying where I was.
Yeah. Agreed.
Staying where, and it's an easy answer. Staying where I was would most definitely have been harder.
Yeah. And this is the slippery slope that women actually exist on, between rationalizing that things are good enough Like things are good enough. Like I got a great husband and, financially I'm okay. And my kids are doing well. Yet inside you're not feeling great. You don't feel good, so you should be grateful. Everything is fine. Everything great. But like you're settling for mediocrity. Like you're settling for less than, because if you're not feeling it, then something's off. Right. So, and it's a good thing to see the glasses half full. I mean, that's a positive way to look at things, but it'll bite you in the face if it keeps you living with status quo.
But that's settling for less or for what I have, being okay with mediocre. In a sense, that's not seeing your own self-worth, or that's how I would see it.
100%.
You deserve more. You deserve to be able to chase your dreams, to do what you want, and not in some sort of pie in the sky way of doing things.
Not at all. I'm not trying to be Pollyannish at all, but you're making a very good point, Lucy. Like, so there's this circle and everything feeds each other. So there has to be this level of cultivating and practicing self-love and self-worth all the while. Like, and that's not anything also we're taught to do. We talked about this a couple of episodes ago on how to cultivate more self-love and compassion, right? Because without doing that, then even doing the hard things, we don't realize, oh, this is what I need to do because I love myself, because I'm worth it. It's worth having that hard conversation with whomever it is. It's worth putting in the extra effort to go visit the doctor and get the mammogram and take care of my health, see the gynecologist so that I can still have intercourse comfortably. That's effort. That's hard effort, but I am worth it. Loving myself enough, but it's a circle. So like one feeds the other and one feeds the other to then, that's why it's a formula. It's a formula for success. I think it is, and again, that's a large part of what my signature program is based on. It's understanding that there is a recipe that we need to cultivate many different aspects of our lives. It's a holistic approach, body, mind, heart, and spirit. Not just one thing. We can't just lock in our careers, have great success there. We can't just lock in our marriages or our health. We have to look at everything. We're whole human beings, and that's what makes us thrive and flourish.
Now, before I forget, you mentioned your signature course. Mm-hmm. Where can people, because I'm sure there are women sitting there nodding their heads going, yeah, I think I'm stuck. I think I need help. Yeah. Where can they go to find out more about your signature program?
Well, this is the time. I happen to be opening up 4 spots on a private level with a flash sale of 15% off. So I'm launching this year. And I'm also opening up Midlife Magic Meetups, which is a group program. But in both, you get my signature program, and each starts off with an assessment where we just get the ground level of what's going on so we can highly customize your experience. And then we move into creating this greater formula for success with all aspects of our lives, the spiritual, and I don't mean that in a religious way. I mean that in a sense of purpose and values and of what lights me up. And then there's, our physical influencer, our emotional influencer, our social influencer, our environmental influencer, and of course, our mental or intellectual influencer, being stimulated mentally. Yeah.
And the meetup, is that an online group or is that an in-person
it's both.
group?
If you live in Long Island, New York, you're able to, I do provide it live. And in my husband's office, he's got a great space, a conference room in Plainview. In the evenings, I offer it. There's wine and cheese for those people who come live, and little dessert.
That's worth the drive, Holly.
A little bit of dessert, but I also offer it obviously through virtual, because there are many people who are out of state, or people just like the convenience of coming home, eating a bite to eat, and getting on, a virtual call that's about an hour and a half. The beautiful thing about the group, it's very cost effective. You can, it's less than half the price of my signature program. And time commitment wise, you start off with a private one-on-one after we do the debrief. If there's only 4 gatherings and they're spaced 3 weeks apart. So a lot of women, talk about money and time being a big issue. So I was very excited to be able to create something that worked for most women, because no longer, they can work it out financially as well as, time wise, because it's not as much of a commitment. But the private one-on-ones, I am offering a 15% discount, which is, I only do that once a year. And that, is someone who really wants that, one-on-one, more private attention, where I can really be very hands-on opposed to a group. And still, even with that one, we can work with time constraints. I wouldn't really recommend meeting any less than every other week, but I have done, more than that for those people who are very busy and still want to do a private program. But that is definitely a pricier, more expensive way to go.
I mean, you mentioned something important, and I think we don't put enough value in that, and that's community.
Yeah.
Because it's the one thing that I found on my journey is I didn't have anyone that really got where I was.
Yeah.
And it can be lonely, but it can also create a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't sure if what I was experiencing, was it normal? Was what I was thinking normal? All of those things. So just the prospect of having other women around you that are like, hey, I get you.
It's that and the wisdom you gain from
yeah, and that sort of group energy.
Yeah. I mean, these women come with a wealth of wisdom, so not only are you getting my signature program, which is a very unique program, like honestly, like it's I really truly, I'm not really, tooting my own horn, but it really is, you walk out with a completely different perspective. When I got turned on to these tools, and as a former psychotherapist, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing to be able to share this with people. It's really transformative. So, but what's cool about the coming together of other women is that not only is it normalizing, but you're gaining so much knowledge from other people's experiences. And these are pretty savvy women, people who usually come to these groups, they want more for themselves. So, they're pretty badass, they're pretty badass.
And one of the things that can happen is that when you are going through this journey of personal growth, the people in your life that aren't necessarily ready to turn the mirror on themselves, when they see, what's that? Have I gone dodgy again?
No, it's me. My dog was barking. Sorry.
When you're going through the journey of personal growth, people around you may recognize that you're changing, that you're growing, and that shines a light on them, on their sore spots. And you may notice that certain people back away from you. And then, you're going to find yourself, I don't want to say at a different level, but just at a different place than those people that you may have been with before. So that to have that sense of community of people that are in that same place, that same time, that would be invaluable to me.
I get so much out of it. I mean, listen, I'm not going to lie, I get so much out of my one-on-one works. I mean, to be around other women who want more for themselves is quite inspiring. But I walk away from those groups like, electrified. It's really, that's why I call them midlife magic meetups, because I find them to be magical. Like there's something very, very empowering and powerful about a group of women coming together who want more for themselves. It's amazing. It really is.
It's a collective energy.
Yeah, it really is. And then not to mention, you're learning something that you've never been taught before. It's a completely different perspective. So, it's a very, very cool experience.
Yeah, that's really neat. That's really neat. So I think we're going to continue this conversation. I think next week, what we're going to dive into. So what we did today is we identified, some of the feelings that come up when you're being stuck and why you may be stuck. But next week, what we're going to move into is, okay, so you've recognized I'm stuck. Now what do I do? So we're going to take you on that journey so that you can also explore things for yourself. You can potentially look at joining one of Holly's programs if you're really looking for that in depth. But we are going to continue the conversation, and we are going to give you the tools and resources so that you can continue your journey.
Lucie, I just wanted to add to anyone who's listening, I always offer a complimentary discovery call to see if, what your right fit is, whether it's private, whether it's group, or whether it's coaching at all. So, it gives people a sense, of what our rapport would be like. It's completely complimentary. And that's probably your best bet. If you're not really even sure what this is all about, or if it even makes sense for you, there's no commitment required, but just a regular discovery call. And I should probably give you my scheduler so that people can just schedule.
Yeah, send me the link and then we'll put
I'll do
that
that.
in there. Yeah, that's great, because sometimes just having somebody else as a sounding board, that can be a game changer.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Perfect. So make sure you check out the show notes, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this as a podcast. Check out the show notes. We're going to have all of the links in there. And until next week, keep riding the roller coaster of midlife and embrace the adventure.